what really used to frustrate us is we'd go to planning and say, this is what we want to do. Right. And the planning department would come back and say, no, because it's not in the general character and keeping of the area. Well, that's what we're trying to change. We've been sort of told in the past, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and nothing ever changes.
Right.
So there's that lack of confidence that the residents feel, nothing's ever going to change. So we wanted to get a real head start, really, and deliver some up to give that confidence to residents that if you come together, you can make positive change.
The thing I suppose most people know is this wind turbine.
Okay. It's the tallest wind turbine in England.
That's brilliant.
We're resident-led and driven.
Right.
So I don't care what anyone else thinks. Whatever the residents want, we're there to deliver.
Work towards.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Exactly.
This is where I'm so impressed with what you did. How many residents did you actually door knock on in your area? How many people?
We door knocked every single home, so that's 3,200 homes.
Welcome to the Pollinators, where we spread some pollen on individuals and organizations that make people grow organically.
My name is KMT, the Freedom Teacher. This is the Pollinators Podcast, episode number 2. Today, we're going to look at the community's response to the energy crisis. Speaking to Donna and Mark from Ambition Lawrence Weston, we're going to look at the largest and tallest wind turbine in England. Check this out. It's a buzz. So first and foremost, welcome. Great to have you. This is the Pollinators Podcast number 2. Really excited to have you. Yeah. Just wanted to let people know a little bit how we met and your little bit of research in discovering what I do and how we met. So I basically was doing some work for Bristol City Council. Part of my work was kind of map out and discover community projects that were doing great work. Discovered your work was completely buzzing, via like what you were doing, just that whole process and that whole story. So just want to really just welcome you to the podcast number 2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, for your time. Could you just introduce yourself and the project you're working on at the moment?
Sure. So my name's Mark Pepper. I'm a lifelong resident of this area that we're in now, which is an ex-council estate. It's home to around about 7,200 people. We share around about 3,200 homes. The area is historically suffered from high levels of deprivation, poverty, a strong sense of being forgotten about, being right on the outskirts of Bristol, and our needs and our demands going unheard, if that makes sense. So we felt as though we didn't have a voice. We were quite used to people coming in and doing things to us, not with us. And that all changed when austerity measures kicked in. We had a change of attitude from the local authority who thought, realised they couldn't deliver the services that they wanted to deliver. So they needed to enable communities like ours to deliver the services for themselves, basically. But on top of that, they also shut the local college. And the college, we lost a lot of assets over the years, from a sports centre to a swimming pool to youth centres to a local clinic. So loads and loads and loads. And that sort of went not unnoticed, but nobody really got motivated by that until they closed the college. And I think that it was the closing of the college that got everyone's backs up and said, right, enough is enough. We need to do something, because there's a lot of emotional feeling within the college. So way back in 2012, myself and a group of other local people came together and said, enough's enough. If we want to see changes, we're going to have to do it ourselves because nobody else is doing it for us. So that's where the story started, really.
That's really brilliant. Just like the bees, we love honey, we love pollinators, but in order for us to thrive, we need you to subscribe and like our channel. Please subscribe and like our channel. Please, please, please. It will create more of a buzz. I love the thing that you were almost talking about, how it was almost landlocked, like completely forgotten about because where you were. So what period of time did the kind of stuff close? Was it over a period of 5 years, 6 years, or was it did it all happen in one go?
It was around about a slow, well, I say slow, around about 8 years it was. But it seemed to be every, couple of months, we'd be losing either a service or an asset and not ever getting any benefits back from those assets leaving the area, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So things like land. We lost the football pitches to the local Catholic school. Okay. We hadn't even got a football pitch to play on at that point anyway. And like I say, the sports centre, the school closed, the college closed. We were losing a hell of a lot, really, over a period of around about 8 years.
So then we come to this point in time where the community are really just frustrated with everything that's been closing down. College closes. What was the next steps? What actually happened from that point onwards?
So the next steps really was to organise ourselves and not make the same mistakes that had been making previously. So, there were agencies and other bodies that came into Lawrence Weston and tried to regenerate the area. Right. But they came sort of parachuted in, telling us what was good for us. So we as a small group didn't want to do that same mistake. So we went out and door knocked every single household with a survey and consulted them about 3 questions basically we asked, and that was what's good about living in Lawrence Weston, what's not so good, and what needs to change it.
This is where I'm so impressed with what you did. How many residents did you actually door knock on in like your area? How many people?
We door knocked every single home, so that's 3,200 homes.
That's a buzz.
We got back around about, I think it was around about 2,100 responses. And I think why we were so successful is because we trained up our own residents, our own neighbours, our own family to go out and do that door knocking. So you had a better response at the front door than a stranger knocking on the door. And, you know, we put survey boxes in, like letter boxes in the GP surgery and the hairdressers, the barbers. We told residents just to leave their surveys once they'd done sticking out of their letterbox, and we'd come and collect them, or they could drop them off at different venues in Lawrence Weston. And obviously there's electronic versions as well to be done,
right?
But a lot of paper ones. And we also gave one-to-one support for those with poor literacy and reading skills, basically.
Excellent. I want to just touch upon that a little bit more, because I feel so often when you engage with local community, I love the fact that you said you trained local people up to do that work, because that number is really high in terms of questionnaires, you know, and you're talking about what, 70-80% return in terms of actually the response rate from your community.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. Was it the actual engagement with the local people that doing that work, or do you think that was the success? Was that the main reason why you think it was so successful, that campaign of getting, was it trust? Were they known in the community? What was
it? Being surveyed by their local neighbours, people that they bumped into every day of the week, if that makes sense. So they were keen to please their neighbours and their friends and their family. And that was what got the big response, I think. I mean, they'd never had that type of survey done to them, so they didn't have people asking them for their views. They were consulted on, like, do you like A, B, or C? Not, you know, let's get to the bottom of it. What is shit about Lawrence Weston, and what's good about Lawrence Weston, and what do you want to improve in? And that is a listicle. So they could have put anything they like down. So it wasn't thematic, it was place-based, if that makes sense.
Place-based in what sense? Was it like a survey questionnaire? What were the questions?
All to do with Lawrence Weston.
Right.
Got no other interest outside of Lawrence Weston at that point, and so they could concentrate on what really mattered to them in their home, basically. So that's what it was about. And the questions were things like, how do you consider your housing? Is your housing good quality, poor quality? What do you want to see improve?
Right.
And there'd be open text boxes so they could put their own ideals about the transport. What do you feel about transport? Do you use public transport? How many cars have you got in the house? How do you travel? Where do you travel? So lots and lots of different questions.
It seems so basic, but such important questions. Yeah. It's so exciting for me, because I'm like, it sounds so basic, but it's fundamental in terms of actually what you've done and moved on to do. So you've got this survey, you've got this questionnaire, you've got these great responses. What was the next steps from, and actually, how long did it take for you to complete that process in terms of actually getting those questionnaires? And
that was about 9 months.
Wow.
9 months from start to finish.
Wow.
Because we wanted to have a good crack at it, and there weren't many of us. So, it's repeating that over about 4 weeks.
Okay.
Actually doing the surveys, and then bringing all that information in, putting it into some sort of report, and then inviting the residents back in and said, this is what you said. Now, how are we as a community going to deliver what it is you're asking for? You say about poor transport. So what is it we can do to transport? You say about housing. What can we do about housing?
Right.
So we took it from there, really.
Great.
To get the support that we got, to deliver all the delivery that we got on to do, we were conscious that we've been sort of told in the past, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other, and nothing ever changes.
Right.
So there's that lack of confidence that the residents feel, nothing's ever going to change. So we wanted to get a real head start, really, and deliver some up to give that, that confidence to residents that if you come together, you can make positive change. So within that survey, 82% of the people said that their biggest concern was a lack of a supermarket. Okay, we did have a supermarket, but it wasn't a very competitive supermarket. They had a monopoly on us. They know that we got poor public transport, low car ownership.
So charging ridiculous prices, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So we're one of the poorest areas in Bristol.
Right.
And their prices were more expensive here.
Than Clifton.
Exactly. Most affluent area.
Yeah, right.
It's a long story, but we fought hard to get a supermarket into the area.
Right.
They closed the college site, so we knew we had the land. The council wanted to put houses on it, and we said, no, hang on, our survey suggesting we don't want more houses. We want some.
Yeah.
We want a supermarket. They said there was no interest. Well, we had a little bit of money, So we employed a private retail expert who went out and contacted those supermarkets.
Amazing.
And they come back and said, no, there's 5 supermarkets that want to come to the area.
Brilliant.
So we went back to the local authority and said, you may have made a mistake. There's 5 supermarkets that want to come. And by the way, we'd like to be involved in the design brief for that site. We want to interview what supermarkets come to the forefront, basically. So then we've got our supermarket, and that's given the confidence we needed to give to the residents to get behind us.
To go on to the next project.
Yeah,
okay, brilliant, excellent.
We're resident-led and driven.
Right.
So I don't care what anyone else thinks. Whatever the residents want, we're there to deliver.
Towards.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. So the thing I suppose most people know is this wind turbine. Tell me, is it the largest one in the UK? Is that correct?
Not in the UK. In England.
In England. Okay.
So it's the tallest wind turbine in England.
That's brilliant. That's a brilliant achievement. So how did that emerge and how did that come to fruition? Yeah.
For our endeavours to try and find a way of generating sustainable income for us. So whatever project the residents want us to deliver, we'll deliver that project.
Yeah.
But we'll also look at it and see, can this lend itself to generating an income for us? So the types of things we're involved in, like food banks, debt advice, chances of making a profit of that are
Very slim.
no.
Very slim.
Then we thought about housing, because everyone was saying, yeah, these housing developers are making, money hand over fist. Let me tell you, that ain't the case, unless you're doing it on economies of scale.
Okay.
So we're building 38 affordable homes. Less unaffordable homes in Lawrence Weston. But then we realised, if we want to deliver affordable homes to our residents, we can't make a profit on it.
Right.
So that was that one out of the way. But then a group come along to us and said, you've got some fields down about there. We want to build a solar farm. One of our main aims, like I said to you, we were being stripped of assets.
Right.
And we were getting left with nothing. So one of our main aims were that we benefited from any assets we had. So we talked to this group. We wanted to put a solar farm in. And we said, yeah, fine. We ain't got a problem with that. But what's in it for us? What are you going to give back in return? You're going to take away an asset, a field, might only be used by dog walkers.
Extractivate
an asset.
Yeah.
So we negotiated 50% of the profits from that solar farm would come into Lawrence Weston.
Excellent.
That's what lit the switch, basically. And then after perhaps one or too many pints in a pub with another resident called Roger Sapita, he suggested that we should build our own wind turbine.
Wow.
So obviously I said, you've drunk far too much, get your coat and go home. 8 years later,
You got one.
built the tallest wind turbine in England.
That's amazing. And what were the steps like, because obviously you've done this, you've succeeded in actually, did you go through a similar sort of process with the wind turbine? Because obviously there was a bit of money involved. They're not cheap how did you raise the funds? What was the process?
So the biggest challenge really was development funding.
Okay.
And then the second biggest one was planning. Because at that time, the government were of the opinion that onshore wind wasn't supported by the public.
Okay.
So they did what they called a minister's written statement, which means any wind turbine in England, if it gets passed through the local authority planning system,
right,
it gets referred to the minister.
Okay.
Who ultimately can
say no, veto it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So if you get any objections, you veto it. So that was quite challenging. I mean, it's a massive challenge. We as residents couldn't do on our own without the skills, expertise, and knowledge that we needed. So we brought that in with some really, really talented people.
Right.
Who gave their services for free.
That's amazing.
To see us deliver that wind turbine.
Great. And how did you, this is one of the things we talk about as community. Sometimes we don't always have the expertise to enter arenas like policy or for legislation you're talking about. How did you get these people on board? Was it just a reputation, people that referred them? How did you, because I suppose people want to know how do they get some extra support if they don't have finances? So how did you recruit these people?
Well, first of all, we contacted Bristol Energy Network because we didn't have a clue about wind turbines.
Right.
And then we were introduced to this guy called David Tudgy.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a...
He's a character.
He's a character, all right?
He's a buzz.
And then through his contacts, we managed to bring in the team that we've currently got to deliver the Ace wind turbine.
Amazing.
What they want to see was obviously more renewables. I don't think they're particularly worried whether it is in Lawrence Weston or wherever, but they want to see, more wind turbines being built for obvious reasons. Good, clean, green, cheap energy, basically. The cherry on the cake was that they'd be supporting an area of high deprivation that had, residents at its core making those decisions. I think that was attractive to them. But also what was attractive was the political support that we could muster up, if you will, because we had a lot of support from the local authority. We had keen support from our local MP. And also the position we were in at that time, we were getting a lot of support from national funders, basically.
Right.
So the national lottery, ran their pilot program, back then it was anyway, and that was called the Big Local, where they invested in areas of eye deprivation like ours, £1 million long-term patient place-based funding.
Right.
So we had £1 million and 10 years to spend it in.
Right. That's really interesting in terms of actually, it's not just about the finance, but it's also the time in which to spend that. You know, like actually £1 million seems like a lot of money to long people, but over a period of 10 years, it's exactly. So what did you do with that period? Was it actually, what was involved?
What, with that lottery money?
Yeah.
No, there was no applications to be made. So what they would do, they would talk to local authorities all over England. And what they wanted to do was support areas that spent a lot of money on the lottery,
right, but
hadn't received a lot. So they came along, worked with the local authority. At that time, we just produced our plan.
Right.
So that gave to invest some money in us, basically.
Excellent.
And then that £1 million, you're right, it's not a lot of money. If you look at it, it's £100,000 a year. That was just enough to keep the wheels on for Ambition Lawrence Weston, which then enabled us to go out and seek more funding. So, for example, we were working with First Bus, who delivered the public transport buses. We've got a massive industrial estate in Avonmouth, about 3 miles away, with lots of jobs.
Right.
But no bus to get there. There's no cycle route.
You mentioned that before as well.
So we applied to Coastal Community Fund to run our own shuttle bus, because First Bus said there wasn't a business case to be had and they wouldn't deliver us.
Same issue, same thing happening again. You know the need, but you're not getting a response from that. Really interesting.
So we ran our own shuttle bus, and then I think it was about 14 months later, First Bus decided, there is a business case, and they followed the same route as our bus, which was fine for us because our funding was running out, and we got what we wanted, basically, to do that. So that money, that £1 million, like you say, isn't a lot, but it helped to apply for other pots of funding.
When we spoke before, when I first met you, both yourself and Donna had a holiday. Like, how many are you a paid member now? How does it work in terms of actually because I know very often a lot of people, they see that money and they think, oh my God, yeah, all this money. And very often, a lot of people that work in these products don't get no money or get paid very little to keep things moving. Has that been your situation in terms of actually your role or being paid for your role, or how much extra additional hours do you give pro bono as well? So that's my thing,
So initially, obviously, it was voluntary.
Wow.
And then we really realised some of the ambitious plans that the residents want us to deliver, like housing, a new community building, transport, play parks, all the grassroots services like debt advice, food banks, free veterinary services, teaching adults to read, leisure facilities,
amazing.
All of that. You can't do that with volunteers. So we've got 3 paid employees now. That's myself, Donna Sealey, and Amy Smith, who takes care of the finance and admin. But it's only a skeleton crew, so there's 3 of us, and we rely heavily on resident volunteers.
Let's just say that again. This list the stuff that you're doing with three staff. That's crazy. So you're doing citizens advice, no food.
So we're not doing it. We're facilitating a lot of that. So we're facilitating debt advice, food banks, training, skills, sector academy training. The veterinary service comes in and delivers free veterinary services. We deliver the building. Residents come in and deliver their activities that they want to deliver, like Keep Fit for Ladies, kickboxing, cricket, basketball. You name it, it goes on there. But we keep our costs down by giving those residents the keys. So they come and go and deliver their own services, and they clean it up after them. So it keeps the cost down. It keeps it affordable for everyone.
Good model. That's a really good model. Brilliant. Okay, so let's dive a little bit more, if that's okay, into the wind turbine.
Yeah.
So it was 8.5 to raise that in total to get that
5.2 million.
5.2 million. After you got the million, got the plans, business case, was it you actually presented the business plan to investors, and they said, okay, this is a viable business option, we're going to run with that? Is that kind of how it works?
So first of all, we had to raise a development finance.
Okay.
We raised the majority of that from the local authority, who were supportive as well.
Excellent.
So from Bristol City Energy Services, we received some money.
Excellent.
So it's just getting pots of money in to do different stages of work. And then once you get it through to planning, it de-risks the project a little bit, not totally. And that makes it more attractive for investors.
Right.
So, we've got some junior debt and we've got some senior debt.
What is junior debt? And
so you've got a senior debt, which is the biggest chunk of the debt, basically. Right. And then you've got small other pots. So the senior debt's covering their risk a little bit, if that makes sense.
Excellent.
So say, for example, something should go wrong and the project fell. The senior debt would get their money back first, if we've got money to give. And the junior debt would get it later on, or not at all, if there's no money there. It's like offloading the risk to others to give them the confidence to invest.
To back you, brilliant, excellent.
So we got it through planning.
Yep.
And then we needed somebody to lend us the money to build it.
Right.
So we got the finance. That was all sorted. That was one job. And then who's going to buy all this electricity off you? So you need an off-taker. So then we need a power purchase agreement. Now, normally, this is quite innovative, this project, because normally the investors won't invest unless you've got a power purchase agreement already set up. So they know that you're going to be able to sell your electricity. So our power purchase agreement was with a company called OVA, again, another Bristol-based company. And they gave us quite generous terms.
Excellent.
Because they want to see more renewable energy.
That's right.
And they support where that money's going. So all the surplus from the profits of that turbine will come back into the local community.
That's brilliant.
They also
That's brilliant. That's so good as well. And how long has it been running for, the actual turbine now? How long has it been up?
Last March, so almost a year.
Doing its job?
Extremely well.
Excellent, man.
Yeah.
So great. It's so great as well.
Still don't see no money.
You're not going to see it. It's going to work into the community.
The banks are seeing it. No, the community's not had a penny yet.
Okay.
But we should do in March 25, because what we need to do is build up the reserves to make sure that we got enough money to keep that wind turbine running. So there's a lot of other additional costs, maintenance, ground maintenance, servicing. So as soon as we've got enough in there to give the lenders the confidence that, we can cover the costs for a while, then we'll start to see around about 140 grand a year come into the community.
Brilliant. And is that going to be invested into the service to kind of like, just to support the services in the local borough? Brilliant.
Yeah. So people are saying, what are you going to spend that money on? We don't know yet, because the residents haven't told us.
Excellent.
So our next survey will go out.
So go back and find out.
So we resurvey every 3 years to make sure we're on top of it. Really.
Nice. And then what are the kind of key things that you've learned? I mean, I can't imagine, I could be wrong, but you working in the community for so long would have imagined you'd be doing this kind of project or learning so much information. A lot of stuff is very challenging. What kind of advice would you give to people?
Well, I mean, we don't go out to try and find the most challenging projects to deliver, that's for sure.
But it seems like you always
it turns out that way.
Yeah.
One thing we realised we didn't want to do was to act in silos. Right. So we're trying to change the community, right? It's been tried before in little silos.
Right.
But you can't. You need to work in an holistic way. So that means, to build great houses, you need money to live in them. To get money to live in them, you need a decent job. To get a decent job, you need the transport to get there, all the skills and the training. So they're all interlinked. Yeah. So it's no good looking at one thing in silo. So we needed to do all of that together to make sure we're all linked in together, if that makes sense. So that's really challenging.
Yeah.
That's what's pushed us on, is because we've got to do the whole lot, not just piece of the cake. We've got to do the whole cake. The other thing that motivates me, obviously, is this is my own. This is where I've lived all my life. This is where my kids are growing up. My grandkids are growing up. So I've got a vested interest in the place.
And how does it feel to see like these projects? I mean, these are like concepts that start, just from the response to the community. How does it feel for you personally in terms of like seeing it complete? Like,
well, when I get a chance to think about it, I think, that's not bad. We've done our little bit there.
Yes,
we made that happen. So we, go past the supermarket. They've been screaming out for supermarkets for years. Politicians always promised them one. They never delivered. But we as a group of residents delivered that, which is great. You got the wind turbine obviously turning away. My son lives just down there. So I go up and forward and think, we played our part in that. You got a brand new community building. So it's really proud, a sense of pride. And that's the other objective that we tried to set out to deliver when we first started. And that is that pride of place.
Because people are really proud of the area, aren't they?
Well, they weren't.
Okay.
So, you ask people what it's like living in Lawrence Weston, they say, shit, it's a shithole. You ask people outside Lawrence Weston, I wouldn't even go dead there. So it's trying to improve that pride of place.
And that everyone's come to see your wind turbine.
Yeah.
You can't even, like, I'm hearing that this team's going to go there. And I'm like, I haven't seen it yet. So I hope they get to see it today. That's really interesting as well. I suppose myself and you have been doing community work for quite a long time. And what are the kind of key themes or advice you can give people in terms of, like, for my thing, I kind of describe it as I have like a light. I'm in a cave. I can't see the destination. I can't see the end point, but I've got enough light to take me far enough, the steps that I need to do to move forward. It's a very challenging environment. It's something like that's benefiting the community. Sometimes it seems so hard. It's almost like it seems unconceivable. So what kind of things do you suggest to people if they're going to try and embark upon? The survey is a very good thing. I think the survey and capturing, I think that's a brilliant like methodology that people could do. What other things can people do to kind of make sure that they approach it in a holistic way to ensure that the views of the residents are captured and they actually really do the work that they need to do?
Just to replicate what we've done, to be honest. I mean, I'm not a fantastic expert. I haven't got any sort of fantastically complicated strategies. We just go out, ask the residents what they want, come together, find out what their interests and passions are, and then enable them to deliver them. So we're not doing all the work. We're getting them to deliver what it is they want. So, somebody wanted to beautify the area. Now they're putting plants underneath the benches and on street corners. But that's grown now. So now they've got a community allotment. They're putting the planters that you've seen outside, and they're growing food, and it just grows and grows and grows. But my advice is you need to take the residents with you. So whatever their priorities are, if you help to deliver that, you do need finance, because like I said, I don't think we could have done this as volunteers, because you've got to commit so much time. You're talking about pro bono. I mean, we're paid for 35 hours a week, but
you do much more than that.
During COVID, we didn't have a day off.
Right.
Because we know that was when we were most needed. So what other advice I can give is, just get out and don't think you can do it all on your own, because you can't. The skills, the needs, the experience, you can never learn all of that in a lifetime. So you need to borrow those skills, that knowledge from others, listen to others, go out and visit other places like we did and find out how they do it, and take those best bits and bring them back to your own community to deliver.
Just from your experience of talking about other individuals coming into the area, do you think that it's really important that people from the area are doing that work? Do you think it would have been successful from outsiders doing this work?
Actually doing the work or leading the work?
Leading the work.
I think because if you can get people from the area that have lived there all their life, they come with a sense of trust, and people think, they're the same as me. They know the issues. He knows the issues, what I'm facing, what I've lived through. So it gives you that confidence, and it also gives them the trust in, right, Mark, Donna, Amy, run with it. We've got full confidence in you. Don't keep coming back, checking in. We can come to those meetings when it's done. We're working shifts 24 hours a day. We've got caring responsibilities. We've got this, we've got that. We can't come out every night.
Yeah.
So put it in your development plan and go and deliver that development plan for us. The workers that we use with those skills, we buy in a lot of support. So consultants, project managers, because we haven't got those skills.
Right.
But as long as what we're delivering is coming from the residents.
Very clear.
Yeah, and it's being driven by the residents, then there's not a problem with that. For example, the housing. We've got a steering group of local residents who have designed those houses. They've decided how they want to live. They've pushed the planning barriers to the limits. What really used to frustrate us is we go to planning and say, this is what we want to do.
Right.
And the planning department would come back and say, no, because it's not in the general character and keeping of the area. Well, that's what we're trying to change. Do you know what I mean? We've got some poor houses. So if you keep the same character...
You're going to have 4 houses.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so them residents, they drive that, and then we get the architects in, then we get the house builders in, and it's the steering group that drive that. So they just say, right, this is what we want, go and deliver it.
Excellent.
So it's a combination of local people making those decisions, but those with the skills coming in actually delivering it, if that makes sense.
So tell me a little bit more about this project, the housing project. How many houses are you building? When's the time frame?
So when we did our original survey, supermarket was on the list.
Right.
The very next thing was housing and poor housing.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of houses that were terrible, so bad that they had to be razed to the ground.
Wow.
So we had a lot of development sites ready for new housing for other developments. So we decided, right, it's our own, so we want some input. So we'd done the community plan. Back then, we endeavoured to deliver a neighbour development plan.
Right.
So the community development plan is a bit of a wish list.
Right.
The neighbour development plan is a statutory document.
Okay.
So it's legal. So whatever's in it, developers got to abide to.
Right.
So what we wanted to do was make sure that we had a good choice of housing in the area. So we made sure that all these plots that are darted around Lawrence Weston ready for housing, they gave a good choice of housing. So from shared ownership to rent to affordable to, purchasing outright.
Great.
We just want to improve that choice. And then when we were talking to the developers, they were saying, well, you can't have this, you can't have that because it's not economically viable, it's not
because they
financially viable.
Right, they just want to buy a place.
It's on their product and they want to just pop it in. So one of the reasons was, first we were exploring, could we make any money at building houses? We realised pretty quickly that's not good. But can we show these developers how to build houses of a high quality but less unaffordable? So that was the main reason of doing it, really. And to let residents design their own houses.
Yeah.
So they design their own houses. But the main reason was to try and lead the way for other developers. So now we've got lots of housing with those policies that we put into our neighbour development plan. It means no more gas boilers, and this was, a few years ago. No more gas boilers, ground source heat pumps, HMVR for large buildings. Every new house that gets built has got to have EV charging point. It's got to take a fabric first approach. So the energy efficiencies are massive.
High up there.
Yeah, not to reduce the carbon or for climate reasons, but to reduce
the cost.
The money. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And make
brilliant.
it affordable.
That's brilliant. And how many houses are you building?
We're building 38.
Excellent.
But we've influenced around about 350 because you've got a neighbourhood development plan. Any housing developer
Can take that. Right. They're tied in now before they can come actually build.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And what we find is the developers welcome that now because if they're delivering good quality houses that, we think are good quality, then we'll support the planning application. So it
makes it easier for them as well.
Exactly. So it's less complicated.
Partnerships.
Isn't it?
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it works for everyone, really. We get better quality houses and they get a clear way through to planning, which in the end will save time and money.
And when are they also, because I know certain Snug, for example, are doing some projects where people are actually building the actual houses. Are they involved in actually the building as well? Or are they just kind of just advising the architectures and the builders, developers?
So they can be. So we've got different pieces of land plotted out. Some are for self-build.
Great.
So people can self-build. Some are for communal builds. In fact, every development over 10 units must provide one service plot for people to do their own self-builds, basically.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing as well. And what's the time frame when we're looking at when you think they're going to be completed by?
Ours?
Yeah.
Well, they haven't been started yet. The planning's gone through. We're
Right.
just having the last negotiations now with the Housing Association who are building for us. So we get the land off the council. We lease that land to the Housing Association who will build the houses that we've designed.
Yeah.
With the 10 years we suggested. They then pay us a ground rent. But we've also got the option of buying 6 of those houses at cost price.
Brilliant.
Whether or not we do that yet.
Not sure.
Yeah,
See if it's viable.
the options open.
It's brilliant. The houses, how many are you actually building for the residents? How many are being built?
Well, we're building 38 in partnership with a housing association.
Great. And what's the steps involved in that? You mentioned different types of housing types that are available for the house.
Different tenure types.
Yeah.
So on our particular site, which is called Astrid Close, that'll be affordable. They'll be all affordable. Could be shared ownership and rent. But on other plots, you've got self-build sites. You've got sites just for rent, sites for open market. So, like I say, we're just trying to improve the housing choice when it comes to our residents.
And I think there's a theme with the wind turbine you mentioned before. This is not about carbon per se. You were saying it's really about making these houses more affordable. Is that?
Definitely, everything we do is about affordability. The amount of poverty we got in the area with the climate crisis and cost of living.
Living crisis.
That's high priority. So we are doing a lot of work that people would say is related to the climate.
Yeah.
But that's a secondary benefit. The first benefit is our residents' priorities, delivering those priorities for our residents. And it just so happens that all the time that comes with a good climate payoff.
Yeah, you go to section as well. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy doing amazing work. If people want to kind of contact you or offer their support or find out a little bit more, what's the best ways for people to kind of, obviously through our YouTube channel and we can do links and stuff like that.
That'd be good.
But directly to you, how do they, and what do you need? I mean, you need support from external. What's the next steps for you, I suppose?
Well, I think we will need a holiday. So if anyone out there with a villa in Jamaica or
Do you know what? It's funny. This is the conversation we had when I last saw you.
Yeah.
We were saying that.
On that.
Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
Again.
Good to speak to you.
Keep up the great work, and I hope to see you soon as well. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you so much. Blessings. Bye bye. First and foremost, thank you. We had a conversation. We managed to grab Mark Pepper,
Yeah.
And it was a really good conversation talking about his role with Ambition Lawrence Weston. But we know we can't do anything in isolation as an individual. You need a team.
We actually go back a long way. Wow. So we probably go back to 2006.
Wow.
So Mark's background is youth work. He was working for Connections. My background's public health. We both actually worked in Lawrence Weston.
Right.
So we've known each other a very long time. We've got a really good working relationship and actually a really good friendship. And then I was actually involved in interviewing for Mark's job, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, back in 2012. Wow. So, and I was actually involved in my public health role, working in Lawrence Weston, the creation of Ambition Lawrence Weston.
Excellent. And prior to that, you said you were working for the council, is that correct?
Yeah, so I was working in public health, which was, you probably know this, but it was the NHS Bristol, tooped over to Bristol City Council in 2015. So I worked in public health for like 14 years. So I worked in community health to start with, based in Lawrence Weston, worked here for many, many years. And then I kind of left and went to work in City Hall with the Children and Young People's public health team, actually. So a lot of the sexual health work, drug and alcohol, and healthy schools programme. So I kind of did that. And actually, it was great. There was nothing wrong with it. But I felt like I was managing people to deliver programmes. And it's like, I'm sat in City Hall earning however much a year, not really doing a lot, except for managing. And I felt like I lost that connection to my local community. So I lived in Lawrence Weston. My kids were at school in Lawrence Weston. And I felt I needed to come back. So I came back to Lawrence Weston in 2018.
I think that is such a reoccurring theme in communities. People that, want to really see the change and want to implement that. Yeah. But actually, we just end up managing.
Yeah.
We don't actually, I'm the same with my project. I'm actually like in a situation where now I just got involved in actually building, we're doing a pizza oven as well. But the joy in just doing that, I don't normally get to do as much of that because I'm actually just managing as well. So at the moment, what is your role within Ambition Lawrence Weston?
Yeah, so tiny team, 3 of us. So my role is the kind of community engagement and delivery of all of our kind of programmes. And all of the community consultation for community plan, climate action plan. So I kind of deliver the plan.
What are the kind of projects that because you do quite a multitude of things. I mean, today, for example, you told me, what did you do? You did a forest walk this morning?
I was down the allotment first thing this morning, then we did a forest walk on Lawrence Weston Moor, and I've just come back from Bantley's.
Do the little pig, right?
A little pig with your
3 in 1 day,
I have to speak to you.
But that's pretty much your standard day, right?
Absolutely.
So give us a little insight into some of the projects that you're working on at the moment.
So one of our major projects is our Grow, Cook and Eat project in Lawrence Weston. So this is our demonstrator project, which come out of our community climate action plan. So we've got 3-year national lottery funding to essentially to choose a priority that come out of the plan that the residents wanted to see some action on, and there was a lot of recurring themes around access to food, access to healthy food, affordable food. We've got loads of look at this green space, loads of green spaces in Lawrence Weston, nothing happening on them. And people they just need some basic skills. It's all right saying, well, just cook fresh. Well,
but
what
how?
Is that? Do you know what I mean? That's not just something that they've learned. We do a lot of cooking with children, young people. But essentially, there's 2 elements to that, and it's reducing carbon emissions by growing and reducing carbon emissions in the home by changing the way you shop, you process your food waste, and you cook, essentially. It's 3 days a week working on that project. 1 day is sort of central project time. So we've got a citywide project looking at public transport.
Brilliant.
Well, transport as a whole. Because so there's 6 areas in Bristol who's got a community climate action plan. Everyone is talking about transport.
Right.
Not an issue you can solve in your own community, right? So we need all 6 of us, we need to be working on transport. Excellent. So we do a lot around transport, and then the leadership panel as well. So
and in the leadership panel, I suppose, that training people up to kind of create a legacy to kind of do the work that you're doing.
It's growing that panel. So essentially the leadership panel is any organisation or a policy change can come to the panel with, this is what we want to do, and we can go, that's not going to work because you haven't thought about X, Y or Z. So it kind of comes to this panel. So we're looking at now bringing local residents onto that panel, so your expert residents, because they will know, you can't just do that because that's not going to work for the everyday person living in Bristol.
Great.
Essentially.
Let's go into Grow, Cook and Eat. Ironically, we had a Grow, Cook and Eat project as well.
Yeah.
You see, it's funny. The reason I want to talk about that is because the whole thing about the supermarket, for example, you don't have a supermarket now, you've got a supermarket. But how is it going? And what are the challenges within that? Because I know there's this very much kind of a conversation with people that from a certain areas of deprivation that why are they cooking, why are they eating healthily? But they don't understand it's so much tied to economics, what's available, what's accessible, also time.
Yeah.
Mum's gone to Iceland, it's just easy to kind of just bung in the oven.
Well, it is.
Rather than, right.
It's not the most cheapest. People think, it's just the cheapest way. Absolutely, cooking from scratch is the most cheapest way. But what we don't want to do is stigmatise people, right, who say, I don't know how to cook whatever, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing bad about that. It's just the way, schools ain't teaching what they used to do years ago. So there you've got a massive gap of people growing up without that. Mm-hmm. If a parent can't cook, they're not going to be able to teach their child to cook, right? So we work across the spectrum. We do a lot of stuff in the school holidays with kids. So we do every week of the school holiday at least one session where we got a group of young people in and we're cooking a meal from scratch.
Excellent.
And that is learning how to weigh the ingredients, all of this stuff, cooking it. And then really important is that eating and that social kind of coming together. And we've all made this, whatever it may be, and now we're all going to sit and kind of eat it together.
And it's interesting because there's kind of like a couple of themes that always come through community, and food is one of them.
Yeah.
What have you seen happen by just people? Because, I mean, when we were younger, we had to eat together as a family. We hated it. Just like, I just want to go do my own thing. Yeah. And I think it's become less present in society because everyone's got their own little computer. They've got their, Xbox, or they've got their phones.
I think it has changed massively. And I just think, not everyone works 9 to 5 these days, different shift patterns. You could have kids coming home from school. I remember when I was growing up, what was it? A latch door kid or something where you...
Latch kid. Oh, right, yes.
Kid, where your key was under the... I think that there is a lot of that now. Like kids are coming home from school. Parents have got to work. Particularly if you're working down in Avonmouth, the shifts are 6 to 2, 2 to 10, whatever. It's not everyone's doing the same shift. So I think that real kind of coming together and eating a family meal at a table... there's a lot of sitting on the sofa with your dinner, watching I'm guilty of that, right?
Come to that a second.
Yeah, you're just eating as you're watching the telly. There's none of that kind of coming right or going around your grandparents on a Sunday for your Sunday dinner. I think all that's kind of gone now.
And how long have you been running the programme for?
So we're halfway, so
right.
18 months into 3 years. So it will finish July 2025. The funding from the lottery, but obviously
we'll continue in some way or some.
Continue to do that.
What have you seen? What are the highlights? What are the changes that you've seen with people actually? Because it's I think sometimes when we talk about community work, there's this kind of basic output, like just cooking. Yeah. But you see so many different things that emerge from that. What have been the kind of like the outcomes, the outputs?
I think the growing, the changes in our green space. So if you were to park out the front, you would
very impressed.
That's part of it, and we've got so many dotted across the community.
Amazing.
So planting loads more fruit trees, building load more beds to grow stuff in. We're up at St. Peter's Church at Ridingleys on Wednesday doing stuff there. And it's just people want that whole kind of planting it, growing it, eating it.
Excellent. Eating, cooking together and sharing.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So we kind of come together last year and we cut our first community cookbook together,
nice.
Right? So what we're focusing on is people's favourite recipes, but seasonal eating.
Yeah.
That's really important, right? That's one way to reduce your cost. Eat what's in season, 100%. Way cheaper.
100%. So if people don't know, 40% of our food is actually imported. So actually eating season, it's also healthy for us as well, Less transportation. There's so many co-benefits of that as well.
And reducing your carbon emissions.
There you go.
That in there.
And I saw that. I was very impressed with that. Exactly. When I first came, that was about 3 or 4 years ago. We had the conversation about the beds. So I'm really glad to see when I'm coming out. What are people really excited to grow? Is there anything that people kind of really excited about growing? Is there anything they're kind of seeing that they kind of like really...
Well, what we're doing is we're working to look at what is not available more locally for people with dietary or cultural needs.
Excellent.
Let's have a go at growing. So we've got a community allotment.
Yeah.
So let's have a go at growing some of the things that Lidl's not going to stock everything. Right. So let's try and grow it for them. So that's one of our tasks this year. So we're working with the amazing Sarah Van from Edible Bristol.
Brilliant.
So she's very supportive, very knowledgeable. And we have a community ecologist called Eric who works with us as well. Because while we're doing all of this growing, we're thinking about increasing the local habitat and then biodiversity in the area as well. So
I love that. I love that.
We're not destroying habitat. We're creating
them again as well. Exactly as well. What goes hand in hand, the biodiversity, healthy food, all that kind of, and Mark was saying earlier about you have to approach it holistically.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're really doing that as well. So that's the Grow, Cook and Eat project. What's the highlights for you at the moment? What are you really enjoying out of the whole work? Because I know when we spoke before, we had a very honest conversation about like you not taking a break.
Yeah.
And
still haven't had one.
How long have you been working without taking a break?
I haven't had a day off since Christmas.
That's mad.
And we're middle of March now.
It's just, and the thing is, the reason why I'm talking about this because it's so common in our worlds.
I think though, joking aside, when you're a small organisation, you've got a very small team and you're kind of committed to delivering all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like if I worked in Sainsbury's or wherever, stacking shelves, if I have a day off, someone's coming in to stack those shelves, right? If I'm not here for 2 weeks because I'm on holiday,
big gap.
Delivering
It's a big gap. It's huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's the real, it's like what I describe it as an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And the reason why I call it that is because it's dependent on other people. Yeah. If you disappear, then that whole ecosystem collapses.
No, that's very true.
So I think it's nice to frame it in that way. Okay, so what keeps you motivated to do this work? Because, Mark was saying, well, I love being here and it's my home. So that's my motivation. I want to see the best for my community. For you, is that the similar sort of kind of motivation?
Absolutely. I, grew up Lawrence Weston. Like I said, my kids went to school in Lawrence Weston. I've actually just moved into Avonmouth now, but, within the ward. But I think it does make a huge difference if you've got that affiliation with an area. Like, there's no way I want to go and work in, anywhere else in Bristol because I haven't got that connection there. And, and I don't know everyone there. And my kids' friends don't live there. And my family don't live there. And, you want to make the change where it matters to you.
Yeah.
And this is where it matters to me. So this is why I want to kind of work in Lawrence Weston.
And it's funny because in nature, permaculture, call it zone 1. Like, it seems so obvious, the stuff that you're doing, but it takes so much for us to articulate this. Like, it takes an interview, it takes policy, it takes a plan. But actually working more locally, there's so much wealth of knowledge within people locally. For people, they call it lived experience as well. So you definitely have that in abundance as well. And what have been the highlights for you, like in terms of like stuff that you've seen doing this work? What kind of like things have you enjoyed the most? Because there must be so many stories you can tell.
Yeah. The thing that I love the most is our holiday programme with young people in Lawrence Weston. So we deliver every day of the school holidays a free activity ranging from day trips, sports, arts and crafts, cooking, gardening, whatever, film nights, board game nights, curry nights, you name it, bike maintenance clubs, whatever, with a free hot meal for that child and whoever they've attended with, parent, carer, whoever. And I just love doing that. I really do. And the kids keep coming back and going back, and like they're growing and they know you and they can, and they want to come and they're really excited to come and they just love it. And I love doing it.
Brilliant. And I suppose equally, what are the challenges for you? Because I know just the progress that you've made and the kind of expansion with the same small team, it must be quite a stretch.
It is challenging, and we have got some amazing volunteers, and we couldn't do a third of what we do without the amazing volunteers, but we need more volunteers. And I guess that's the same everywhere. Whoever you talk to are going to say that you couldn't do it without volunteers.
Right. So let's look at the volunteers. What do you specifically need, like in terms of, because I know sometimes with volunteering, we won loads of awards for our project volunteering, but I kind of moved a little bit away from it because there's a lot of management and volunteering.
There is, yeah.
How do you...
It is difficult because you say that and then you think, it's just micromanaging a load of people and actually I'm not doing anything. Right. I might as well just do it myself. But you want kind of people who can stay for the long haul, so they know, they get to know the ropes and they know what they got to do and they've got a specific task, specific role, and they can fly with it. And we've had some great volunteers come through. So people who's come through, say, our cooking class, there's 2 of them who's come together. They're delivering amazingly. Sessions. They're going to be delivering after Easter a 4-week cooking thing. So they've kind of built their confidence and knowledge, and they want to run with it. So let's go for it.
And is it specifically to Lawrence Weston, or will you be open to people just volunteering like further afield as well in Bristol, or maybe even further afield from that as well?
I mean, our preference would always be
local people
in Lawrence Weston, obviously.
Yeah.
But, if someone wants to come and give up their time to come and support us.
Brilliant. And what roles are what areas you think is the need for in terms of volunteers? Is that specific that maybe you think that you need some?
We have got a couple of director places open.
Okay.
So there is, if we would like them to be local residents.
So this is a reminder, please.
Directors.
Yeah.
So we could only have a certain percentage who don't live in Lawrence Weston, and we have got that.
Great.
So we need local people. But anyone who wants to come and help deliver our school holiday programme, anyone who wants to come and help at the allotment, anything, give us a shout.
Brilliant, fantastic. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for all your amazing work. From when we spoke before and what you're doing, it's just absolutely incredible.
This earth, our home, the place we grow our seeds. A world of opportunity, some squander because of greed. They take and don't replace the cup overflows. Man keeps abusing for the power, which leads to disease of the soul.